So I was telling him stay about this far away from the mic, and that or you can move it if you need to, or whatever you need to do. So let me start with prayer, if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right. Father God, we thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to Ange and learn from his experiences and everything he and his family have been through. And I thank you just so much for putting both these men in my path. I thank you for Michael and the pastor he is and the pastor he will be. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I need to grab this. So, Ange.
Yes.
You escaped Rwanda during the Rwandan Genocide back in 1994. It's been 30 years, correct?
Correct.
Let me say before we really get started, if I say anything that is out of line, I am not going to be offended if you tell me. Because I know you were apprehensive about talking a little bit.
Yes, kind of.
What's the apprehension though?
It depends on what I will, because in my country there is this thing they call genocide deniers.
Okay.
So I don't want to sound like one of those.
You don't want to sound like that. There are
Yes.
people that actually believe that it didn't happen.
Actually, it's the people who came up with that word, genocide deniers, they have their own definition of the genocide denier.
Okay.
And that definition does not work. So basically, their own definition. So if you don't comply to what they think you should call it, then you're a genocide denier. For example, if you don't believe that only these people died, or if you believe something other than that, or maybe you believe that but you believe something else, then you start becoming a genocide denier.
Yeah, because
Yes.
and that's the reason I asked Michael to be here. So one of the criteria. So Michael is probably one of the smarter guys that I know. I know you read a lot, and from your Facebook posts that Leslie shows me, it's like you have a reading list and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I know that you're well versed, and but I asked him. I said, "How much do you know about the Rwandan genocide?" And he said, "Very, very little." Right? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I had heard, if I've even pronounced it right, about the Tutsi people, that they were involved, but that's literally all I know. So I'm very ignorant when it comes to the Rwanda.
So that's what why I asked him. Originally, I asked somebody else, but he couldn't make it.
Okay.
He's a little bit younger than Michael and me. Michael's 35. I'm 48. The first time that I heard about this was back in 2004 when the movie came out.
Yes.
And what was weird, and I feel a little weird saying this, Ange, and I'm always worried about something coming out the wrong way, but this is truly what I thought, is that we're kind of taught in this country that only white people can be racist. Mm-hmm. Okay? And I honestly believe that, because if you think about it, all the stuff that during the 60s in the United States, the Voting Rights Act and KKK, even Germany going after the Jews, things like that. And whenever I saw the movie, I was kind of confused, because I was like, I didn't understand, because these are Africans killing Africans. And it confused me, so I didn't understand that. So in my mind, I'm like, well, maybe it was just a religious thing, because you do have that, or something along those lines. Like I couldn't comprehend it.
Right.
So in July, and this is the reason I called you, when they tried to assassinate Trump. Now I know you say you didn't want to get political, and I'm not going to get political, but that's basically what the triggering point was for that genocide, correct?
That is correct.
Can you explain that? What happened?
Yes. So when there was a president who was in power for several years from 1994 in April. Mm-hmm. He was from the Hutu party, or a Hutu tribe, if I could say that. and he was assassinated. His plane was shut down when he was coming back in Rwanda from one of the meetings to establish peace. But the problem that there were some other stuff happening before that point. So it's just like as we were talking about Trump, it did not just happen more in that one day.
Yes.
There were some events that pushed to that point. So yes, on April in April 1994, when when the airplane was shut down, that is when everything started. Actually, like within a few hours, that is when the genocide quote. Because there are many definitions of the genocide. That is when the genocide started from that moment.
Who shot down his plane?
That is a $1 million question. Up to this moment, people have theories, and that is another point because the people don't want to admit that this person killed. Because the thing is, admitting or showing who shot down the plane, they will be putting the blame of the genocide on that person or that group. So that is why no one wants to take that blame. No one wants to accept it. And probably some people know, especially some Americans, because Americans have a lot of good intelligence, and they were there. But the thing for it to be officially pronounced or known that, hey, this person or this one shot the airplane, it is still a secret because it is going to change everything. They will have to rewrite the whole story. The whole history.
In your opinion, someone knows, but that will be information that you will probably never find out.
Yes, there are books that came out, actually, even people because there were like about 3 to 4 people who went to the site where the missile was shot. So there were like 3 people. So 2 of those 3 people came out. They separated from the government later on, and they testified. But of course, the one who they are accusing of sending them to shoot down the airplane, they say no, they're just lying. They're trying to make money. That it was they made up, But the other people who who said exactly how things happen, who sent them, why and when, everything happened exactly as they said. But again, there have to be at least 2 witnesses to something. Because those people who shut down the airplane, I think there is only one who is still alive, or maybe they're dead. So that is one of the reasons why. Because the people who shut the airplane down, either they're no longer alive or they disappeared or something. So we don't know the truth.
Okay. Now you said earlier that these were, and you kind of touched on what I was talking to you on the phone about.
Right.
Right. So, and I guess I should have started with this. So Rwanda is a landlocked country. It's in the Great Lakes region, just like we have a Great Lakes. So does Africa.
Yes.
Lake Victoria is part of that. To the west is Democratic Republic of Congo, correct?
Yes.
To the south, Tanzania? No.
I just know I know the north is Uganda.
Uganda.
Yes.
It's Tanzania, Uganda, Burundi.
Yes, there's Burundi, Tanzania, Uganda, Congo.
Okay.
Yes, those are the surrounding countries.
So in that area,
yes,
there was a explorer that went through there back in the 1800s, and I don't know. I read this, so I don't know if it's accurate or not. But that's when you had the Great Lakes Twa, correct? That's a people group. Would that be equivalent to like our Native Americans?
Yes, actually, I had to kind of to read through that to kind of refresh my memory for today. So basically, before the colonial times, which I would say would be before 1800, so there were three tribes: the Hutu, Twa or Pygmies, and the Tutsi. But many centuries before, the Rwanda was populated by the native of Rwanda, which
Bantu.
Not Bantu, is the Twa, the Pygmies.
Okay.
So basically, they will be like equivalent of Native Americans. So I'm trying to kind of like how the population came. So that was a long time ago, many centuries ago. And then so they were living in the Rwanda, just living in the jungle or in mountains. And then Bantu from the south of Sahara Desert. Those are the people usually who do agricultural activities. So they started looking for a place to settle down. So they started moving south towards the south, and they found Rwanda was a beautiful place, really nice to do the agricultural activities, and they stayed. So basically, they found the natives, and then they joined them. So now there are two tribes: the Pygmies or Twa or natives, and then now Hutus. And then several centuries after, they called them the Nilotics. So they came from Ethiopia or Somalia or those northern, eastern part of Africa. They are cows. I mean, they like cow or cow people.
Cattle ranch.
Yes, there you go.
Okay.
So they were trying to find a really nice place for the cows. So they were going south, going towards the south, and they ended up in Rwanda, and they liked it. They found those people who were already living there. These people are nice. So they received them, and they gave them hospitality. And that is how the Tutsi started living there. So basically, they start living together, and everything was fine.
So,
yes,
okay.
Until the 1800s, when during the conference,
the Belgians, yeah.
No, actually,
the Germans at that point.
Yes, the Germans.
That was after World War I, correct?
That was before, because there was a 1985 conference when they were splitting Africa.
Okay.
Because there was like a conference where they were splitting Africa between those European powers. So that is when they gave Rwanda, because Rwanda had like a kingdom, and the kingdom was led by Tutsi, because Tutsis, they were, I don't know if because they came from Egypt area, and usually Egypt was a little bit more advanced. So the people in the Tutsi tribe, they were a little bit maybe advanced or smarter. I'm not really sure. It's a conspiracy. But they were the kings. So which means the Hutu were not as advanced as the Tutsi during that time.
So even though, if I can ask a question, so even though the Tutsis didn't originate in Rwanda, they ended up being the ruling power, so to speak?
Yes. And they were a minority. Actually, this morning I was asking myself, I never asked myself why they were always minority. So even though they moved in after, but then were never able to grow in the population size to be the same size as the Hutu people. The Hutu have always been the majority, maybe like 80% to 20%.
But everyone got along, correct?
Yes, everyone got along.
At that point.
Yes.
All right. So maybe I'm thinking of, that was the Germans that went in there. And I'm having to filter through a lot of nonsense on the internet, as you can imagine. Like I listened to a podcast yesterday, and they turned it into an LGBTQ thing, like within 5 minutes. And then somebody was blaming it on climate change, as you can imagine. You know, just the all the stupidity out there.
Right.
But when was it? And this is what I was confused about. Can I look at a Hutu and a Tutsi and a Twa and tell what they are?
Yes, you. I mean,
you can.
If you lived in the area for a long time, you can.
So there's a definite difference in
general.
Because here's what I had read on the part that was confusing to me was that I had read that a Hutu can become a Tutsi. Is that correct?
Could. That was in the past.
They could have, though.
Yeah, they could have. That was before because during the so now the Germans have now Rwanda. So during that time, 1850s, all the way to 1916, the first war. So the Germans were in Rwanda, so everything was fine. I mean, they were working with the monarchy, the Tutsi monarchy, and everything was fine. Of course, the Hutu were serving the Tutsi, and I mean, because I know usually there are going to be differences between people. Some people have to serve, some people have to rule, but people were fine with it. So now, when Germans lost, so actually, yeah, to answer your question, during that time, if you were a Hutu, a servant, and you either you paid money or you became rich, or somehow you could become Tutsi.
Okay, so that's
Yes.
what I'm wondering. So
Yes.
it's not necessarily an ethnic difference.
Yes, not at that moment.
Okay.
Yes.
So it was more of a class system.
Yes,
correct.
It was a class system,
and that's where my confusion was on the whole thing. Was like, okay, well, how did that start then? Like, so I just talk about like the Holocaust, right? There were, I think, 7 million Jews that were killed,
right,
over a period of 4 or 5 years, right? So, I went through and looked, and I'm like, that was about 3, if I remember right, 3 a minute. 3 people died a minute. With Rwanda, it was about 7 a minute. Like over twice. I mean, just the efficiency with the way that they were killing people. Like, how can that happen? Like, did the military do it? I I already know the answer to some of it just from reading your book, but I'm like, what was the main cause of them like saying, all right, you're Hutu, you're Tutsi, when the only difference is the amount of money that you have? As far as that's the only difference. It's not like even an ethnic thing. Like, I read that you can go and do blood work and go to an anthropologist, and they cannot tell any difference between a Hutu and a Tutsi.
At this time, are the Tutsi people and the Hutu, are they speaking the different languages, the same language? Like, is there a way to identify?
Oh, the same language, actually. That is one problem. 'Cause we all spoke the same language, the same religion, the same culture. So basically, the problem started in actually I had some paper that I had to print, but I left home in a rush. So after the Belgian took the country, because when Germany lost the war, then the country partitioned Africa. So the German lost Rwanda to Belgium. And then from there, Belgium took the country over from 1916. So Belgians, they came with a different view, a different ideology. So for them, they wanted, in order to be able to rule over Rwanda, they started dividing those people. Because they be like, these people are living together. Of course, there is a king and everybody's work together. But for us to live here, to rule over this small land for a longer time, we have to find a strategy. So the strategy was to create, to divide them. And so one thing that actually even the history shows, they created like an ID card, which shows, I think it was like in 1935, which shows if you are a Hutu, it is going to be written, it's just like a driver license, which shows if you are white, or I don't think we have, actually we do that. We do have
Caucasian.
That
yes, they do that with everything here.
So in Rwanda, they divided it. They said, maybe it was a European thing they tried to import, to bring in Rwanda.
Yeah.
And actually that is where the problem started. Because now, if I was a Hutu and if I was rich, I could no longer become a Tutsi, because it is already written on my ID.
So it kind of gave some permanence to that status.
Yes, exactly, permanence to that status. And then that was the first problem that started dividing those two ethnics or tribes. And then the next thing is now, because the Tutsi people were a little bit lighter skin, because they're descendant from Nilotics, from north, from Egypt. So the skin are a little bit lighter compared to the Hutu, who are Bantu, who are darker skin. So according to some theories, the white people in the Belgians, they prefer people who kind of look like them. Because the Tutsi were a little bit taller, light skin, and they were smarter.
Well, it was a little bit more racist than what I had read. Yeah.
Yes, they are.
What I read was way worse than that.
Oh, really? Okay.
They the one I read was that there's I think it's called a Hamite theory, that basically the way that this guy, I was going to say gentleman, but he wasn't a gentleman. He says that nothing good can come from a black person or African. And so these Tutsis must be wealthy because they're of their white blood. That's basically what he was saying. And I need to find it. It was like terrible. But you're saying the same thing that I had read. I just making sure that when I filtered through some of this nonsense that it was accurate.
So basically, there are different theories, but they all lead to the So they lifted the Tutsi people and they diminished the Hutu people. So that was the problem. Whatever the reason was, however they did it, that was the result. So the Hutu started to feel in servitude.
So regardless, there was kind of this harmony, this unity between the two different people, and then they came in and kind of drove a wedge.
Yes,
so it really
came
came from
in
the
and
outside.
permanently separated people by class.
by class.
Yes.
And usually in Africa, people try to stay together because, I mean, we grew up together. But usually there is sometimes someone who goes to Europe and they study, they come back, and they're going to look different. And that is where the divisions start happening. So anyway, and so during that time now, the Tutsi, okay, so these people are saying we are smarter, we can rule over you, the majority. And then the Hutu did not like it. So, I mean, it took several years, maybe until like the 1950s. And the Hutu be like, we are the majority in this country. We've been serving these people for a long time, and now they are oppressing us even more. So we have to get rid of this. So that is when there was a revolution. I'm sure you because that is a bit closer to.
So here's
recent
what, because I don't want to misquote anybody. This is from Kimberly Fornes, and it's an article online through university. I forget which one, but give credit where credit's due. And she wrote, in the Kigali Genocide Memorial, and that's where you lived at, correct? The capital?
Yes.
Historians even claim that this status was not always permanent. By owning 10 or more cattle, a Hutu could become a Tutsi and vice versa. That's what it says on the memorial.
Okay.
However, British explorer John Hanning Speke, a Brit, interpreted these terms in a different way in what is now known as the Hamitic myth. Speke believed that the Hutu were a typical specimen of a primitive race. And I'm not going to read the quote, but it's terrible. But that the Tutsi were descended from the best blood. That's the way he wrote it. And therefore far superior. Well, what's funny is that they went back and did at that time they weren't able to do, determine DNA and stuff like that. And they went back and said, no, they're both they're both the same people group, basically. Yes. So when they came out with the ID cards, that let's lead up to that. So you say that now they came up with the ID cards, they're separating everybody out, causing a conflict, basically. What was it like in 1994? How old were you at that point?
I was about 7
years old.
Yes.
Man, you made me feel old, Ange. I was graduating high school. You were what, 5? 5 years old. All right, yeah. I am old. But that there was a constant conflict even up until that point, correct? It wasn't mass genocide yet, but it was a constant conflict.
So I think it will be because if we keep jumping back and forth, maybe it won't be very easy for the audience to understand. So maybe I can just keep going. I'll try to go quicker, to go step by step.
Hey, I told you I got all day.
All right.
And all night.
Okay, so now after the ID cards are created, so now people know who is who. And now to make things worse, the Belgians, now they start providing education to the Tutsi people and not to the Hutu people. So that is another. So now they will, okay, you can go to school since you are the ruling tribe or part. Then now we're going to give you education. So we're going to start teaching you religion, teaching you the language. And the Hutu are not going to school. So that is dividing people more, and that is giving Tutsi more power. And then the Hutu start to see, okay, this is not good, and these white people are helping these people to be over us, even though we used to live together. So 1950 something, there was a revolution. So the Hutu, they started trying to kill all the Tutsi who were oppressing them, to show how that they were mad of how they were ruling over them. So then that is when the first group of Tutsi left Rwanda to go live out like in Uganda and the Congo. And this is important because some of those people who left in 1950s, those are the ones who are going to come back in 1994 with the genocide. And I will get to that in a moment.
Okay.
So and then now the Tutsi, a big part of Tutsi lives during that revolution, and then in 1960s, Rwanda becomes independent, and the first president is a Hutu
Of the Belgians. They're independent from
the Belgians. Yes.
Okay.
So now Belgium, just because the Belgian could not, there were no more Tutsi people for Belgium to to rule over Hutu. Hutu was so many people, and now with the revolution, the Belgian were like, let's just give up. And then those people they've been promoting, they left. They've been promoting to rule over the country, like the Tutsi. They left, they fled the country. So now Belgium didn't have anyone else to trust. I mean, Hutu did not trust the Belgians to help them rule the country. So they got independence. Actually, there was a wave of independence in Africa during that time. So now from 1960, there was a Hutu president, and then now they try to do vengeance. Because, okay, you Tutsi been maltreating or putting us in slavery for the last several hundreds of years, and then now that we are on the power, we are going to oppress you too. So basically, they start treating them not in the good ways, and that basically started putting those division even worse. But the thing is that now the Hutu were on the power from 1962 all the way to 1994. So those people who left the country, even during those years, some of the people who were not feeling comfortable living under the Hutu government, they kept leaving the country, going and live in the U.S., Congo, wherever, and they became rich. They had families, and then somewhere like in 1985, they started saying we have to go back to Rwanda. We have to go back to our country, and that was they started organizing movement, like political movement, and even armed movements in the neighboring country, saying, okay, we have to go back to Rwanda because these Hutu people who got the power, there is no way we can't beat them by election because there are so many. And the only way for us to go there is going to be by conflict. I mean, they try to have different meetings, mediations, but I don't know exactly, but they saw that there was no way for them to come and live in the country together with the Hutu, with everything that happened. And then there were some people who came to school in the U.S. I did not talk about that in my book. Some of the generals, like the actual president, he was living in one of the Uganda. He was a military guy in Uganda, so he was sent in the U.S. in Arkansas to learn how to fight and all that stuff because he was already preparing to attack the country. Yes.
Well, what was the motivation? Because I guess it's hard for me to understand or to picture. You leave the country because you don't like being under this rule or government, and so you kind of establish your own life, like you said, and maybe you gain wealth and a family, and you're established. So, at what point do people say, "Well, I want to go back and try to take"?
I was wondering the same thing. Is like, why would you want to go back?
Oh, it is very simple. For example, I've been out of the country for 30 years. So even though some people be like, I don't like, America is good, but
it's not home.
It is not home. And let's say maybe racism, even though I have a work, but things are not, my country is the best, especially for people who grew up in the original country, or maybe like until 20 years old or maybe 15, because they already know how good the country is. And for example, I've been here for 30 years, I'll be like, of course, America is okay, but I have to work hard, and I work hard, and the government takes my money, all that stuff. So people didn't know luck where they were. But in that time, people had bad lives wherever they were living. Things were not that good. And they were like, the only way for us to be able to live. And there was some patriotic too. Be like, hey, we have to get our land back, our ancestors' land back. So basically, that was one of the reasons why.
So we can be better off if we go back home and reestablish things there. I gotcha.
Even though I've been in the U.S. for almost 18 years, I feel like I could be better in my country.
Really?
Because
you're not allowed to leave.
To leave the U.S.?
Yeah.
No, I'm allowed to. This is a free country. It's a free country.
That's what they tell us.
Yes, so that is a good thing. But the thing is, because when I went to my country in 2012, right after I got my U.S. citizenship, because that was the only way I could go back to my country, because I was a refugee. I could not go back there before. So I went there, and you looked different. Everybody was speaking my language. Everybody looked like me. So that was one of the difference. You go to this place, all the kids are running around speaking your language, and so I mean that was a kind of amazing, and so that is just one feeling from me who did not even live in my country for a long time, but people who left there when they were adult. I mean, think about the country all the time. People travel there every Christmas. It is really cold in the U.S., especially people who live in where the winter is harsh. Mm-hmm. Every time in November, they just go to Africa.
Go to Rwanda.
Yes, and they stay there for a long time. I mean, things are kind of, and for example, here you have neighbors, and sometimes you don't even speak with them. You don't know them, or you're scared of them.
Yeah,
or they're scared
that is
you.
a problem here now. I do believe that.
So that is just one example. There is many examples why people think, where is it from, or Africa, in quotes, would be better for them.
I think a lot of people think the United States, just because I think I can say this, just being in Kenya as many times as I've been, is that's a completely different environment. It is a more welcoming environment than the United States. I will I agree with you on that. That like for there, it's nothing for someone to come up and talk to you for hours and hours, and maybe that's why I like doing this. But here, people.
It's like your own neighbor won't talk to you.
Yeah, your own neighbor
People are
won't
not
even
friendly.
spend time to talk to you. I have neighbors that the only time they'll talk to me is to come yell at me about something.
Yes,
I'm pretty sure my neighbor hates me. She won't even look over at us.
So that is the problem. I mean, you have a house there. Your kids are going to live there for a while, and so that is something. Of course, you have your own money. You go to work and all that stuff. So basically, that kind of life. So there are people who don't want that kind of life. You'd be like, of course, because I mean, I only have one life, and I want to be able to talk to my neighbor. You want to be able to. I have one of my neighbor here.
The house across the street is about to be for sale. I promise I will talk to you.
This is too far. Sorry. The only time I will live far from a city is when I go back to Africa, not here in the US. But I might think about it though. So.
Oh yeah.
My neighbor, she's from here in the US. She's from Vietnam, and some of them they have a culture that kind of look to Africans. So sometimes when she hears my kids or us in the backyard, she just steps over the fence and she's like, "Hey, hi." Oh. And then my wife was like, "This is usually in America it does not happen." But I don't know if maybe she feels comfortable because we spoke.
Well, I will say that even in our culture, if you do that, that's frowned upon.
But for us, we didn't find...
Yeah, that's sad, yeah.
Sad or...
Sad
not?
here.
Oh, okay, okay.
There, it's great.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that Rwanda is the same culture-wise as Kenya a lot of times. Like, it's nothing for, like, guys to sit there and hold hands walking, And here it's like, oh, that's gay.
It's a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah, don't do that here. That will get you punched.
Yes. And so coming back to your Michael's question. So basically that is the thing. So people just wanted to go to a different life. Wanted to change life, to go back where they could buy a house for very cheap.
I mean, that makes perfect sense.
Eat very good food, like a natural food, and see the weather. I mean, there are so many different weather. Is a good tropical weather and all that stuff. And so basically, people just wanted to go back, and they want to either way, even if they go back fighting or whatever, they just want to go back.
Really?
Yes, because
you would go back even if it was fighting.
No, not me, but I'm saying like that is what they said. But actually, there are people right now, people who left Rwanda in 1994, the same time I left, who are actually forming coalitions to go back. That means they're even asking support from people like us or people who identify as
so
them.
do they still make, and I don't want to cut ahead, but do they still make that distinction even today that between Tutsi and Hutu? And I guess the Twa is not even in the conversation.
Not anymore. Yeah, that is just, and usually those they live in like in jungles or far away from the cities. They're not in politics. So
Twa.
Yes.
Okay.
We don't talk about those anymore.
Okay.
Yes. But the problem with the Hutu and the Tutsi now is because people have been marrying each other's. People have been mixing.
So my wife had a good question about that. I had read during the genocide, there were it's
Inter-
not interracial.
Inter-ethnic.
Is it even interethnic? Hutu marrying Tutsis, and that basically during the genocide, the Hutu was supposed to kill their Tutsi spouse,
Right.
or risk being killed. Is this correct?
Yes, he did. Yes, he was there were some cases like that.
Okay, so I had read that to Leslie, and she's like, "Well, what about the children? Like here, if a white person marries a black person, they will say that child. I will argue that we're all made in the image of God. I don't understand. I think you're black the way that." Michael's got a reddish beard. It's a distinction, right? And that's my personal beliefs. It's like it's a characteristic. I wish my skin was darker orange instead of pasty white. But whenever an interracial couple here gets married, they automatically say that the child is a black child.
Yeah.
So if the Tutsi and a Hutu got married, what is that child?
Usually, just like in many countries, the child is going to take the father's identity.
Whatever the father is.
Yes. So if the father is a Tutsi, then the kid is a Tutsi. But a lot of people used that in a different ways.
Did you know of any? She was wondering. Did you know of? Have you ever heard of any cases of that actually happening? Did that actually happen?
Like a parent attacked
like
their
a
child?
parent having to kill their own child?
No, I don't.
You haven't heard
no.
that? Okay. Well, you
even a lot of times, because I'm sure it probably was an article somewhere online, but some people just try to make the other group look bad for different reasons. So they're going to make up stuff. Some of them could be true, or there could be one.
Well, this
situation.
wasn't even spoken of, but she was wondering because it seemed like that's what it was just mass. It was mass murder, right?
Yes. It did not really go that bad where someone would kill their own children because because like let's say if a woman killed their own kid because they are who. Because the thing is during the genocide now. Because a lot of people, because I know when you say genocide, people are going to say, okay, yeah, it was a Tutsi who died. And that it was a genocide denial thing comes in 1994. And that is a fact. In 1994, during those 100 days, there were a lot of Tutsi people who died, who were killed because the Hutu, who were in the power for a long time, they just saw the president who just died. And they know exactly why he died or who, because it's just like who is going to benefit from the president dying. Some people said it's the Hutu who didn't want the president to negotiate.
Is that what he was in the middle of? Was negotiating a peace deal?
Yes, he was coming right from Tanzania from a negotiation.
Okay,
but some people said even the Hutu knew that actually. Yes.
go ahead.
Okay. So if people even said even the Hutu didn't want the president to negotiate for the Tutsi to come, because the thing the negotiation wanted for Tutsi to come in and they just have a part of the government. Let's say maybe Tutsi are going to be a prime minister Tutsi and then another minister Hutu, or maybe in the armies they're going to split like 20% to be Tutsi, those 80% will be Hutu. So that is what they were trying to negotiate.
Okay.
But the Tutsi, it appears that they didn't want to live together with those people who kicked them out of the country for this many years. So they wanted the whole power to themselves. So, but it looked like the negotiation were never going to give them what they wanted, especially the extremists. So the only way they had to find a way to bring war. Because they had already started to attack the country actually from 1990.
Was that the RPF?
Yeah, the RPF.
And
yes.
what does that stand for?
Rwandan Patriotic Force.
Okay.
Yes.
Rwandan Patriotic force.
Yeah, patriotic. So
Okay.
thank you. Sorry for my accent.
No,
Yes,
you're all
patriotic.
right. You just need to work on your Texan.
I
man.
tried to say the French. That was the French because usually if I can't say it in English, I say it in French, and hopefully it's going to sound the same.
Yeah, no, it sounds more educated is what it sounds like.
I'm glad.
So that's the RPF.
Yeah, the RPF.
They were doing the attacks on the population, and I heard a little bit about that on
Yes.
the podcast yesterday. Now, with the efficiency that they were able to do, first off, on the genocide, just to talk about numbers, is at that point there were 7 million people in Rwanda,
Yes.
and there were up to 1 million that were murdered.
Yes.
Is that correct?
I mean,
I know the numbers, but they say
yes.
500,000 to a million.
Yes.
And the reason they say that is the people that are still unaccounted for. Is that?
Or is actually because if you don't know who is the person who died, you don't know if that is a Tutsi or Hutu because they were.
Oh, were they only counting?
So that they were counting the heads actually, because some
Okay.
of them they even counted like a scores, like maybe several days after. Because if someone has already decomposed, you don't know who that is.
Okay, so because they were killing primarily Tutsis, but also Hutu sympathizers,
Yes,
correct?
moderated.
Or
yes.
the ones that would not help to kill.
Actually, even my father, there was a situation. It's just one example that, because for me, I would identify as a mixed, because I want my mother said that I'm a mixed. Mm-hmm. I don't know to what extent, because I usually mixed, not directly from mother to father, but sometimes it comes from grandfathers or grandmothers. So I'm a mixed somewhere. So some of my grandparents married between each others. So basically, we really. My mother never told me, hey, you are this or you are this. But sometimes it's just like here, like a Copernic. Sometimes you have to find a way to, like which side you belong, you identify yourself to. Even though you are mixed, but you have to be somewhere, especially if you have to decide white or black.
Culture-wise.
Yeah, culture-wise or circumstance-wise. So I was in Rwanda during that time, and I was living in Rwanda. So when the country was attacked, I mean, we had to run. We had to run. So, I mean, I don't know if we stayed there, if we were going to be spared or not. But, I mean, that is another story. But the thing is, one of my tutors was a Tutsi doctor. He was a tutor before the genocide, and he was a neighbor. So, and during the genocide, they wanted my father to go kill him.
They asked your father.
Yes, they did. That is what my father told me, because my father was a part of those vigilante. Usually, because right after the airplane was shut down, some vigilante team groups were formed to keep or to start killing people or to keep people away, like people who are going to infiltrate in the country and start causing trouble. So my father, he was one of those, like a popular. It's just like a. If something is going to happen in the neighborhood here, all the men are going to gather every night. So during that time, yes.
That's what I was going to ask about. So they kept a very detailed list of who was where.
I mean, people knew each other's. People knew, like for example, if there is a black family next to you, you're going to know. So
well, that's kind of what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah.
Ange, is like, so you can sit there and tell the difference between the Hutu and the Tutsi.
Yeah, especially if you're
just by
neighbors.
looking at them.
Not especially the way they speak. Like especially let's say these times. Like yesterday, a couple of days ago at my workplace, I had two co-workers. I don't know who they supported, but just
they're Rwandan.
No, actually for the election. Sorry, for the election. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. So I didn't know who they supported, but
Yes.
just by listening to the conversation, I was able to know. Oh, okay, so she's here and she's here.
Or almost like, I mean, could we compare this to a northerner versus a southerner here? Like talking to someone from New York and they say pop or something, and we say soda, and it's like, well, I know where you're from type.
Usually,
like just those mannerisms,
yes,
and how they talk, and
the language would
but
be hard.
not necessarily by physically looking at someone.
But actually, physically it does, because if you look at the current president, and you look at me, I mean, that guy, he's like almost 2 times taller than you. So
Yeah.
that is actually the general description of Tutsi people. I mean, they're taller,
They're taller.
skinnier, and a little bit light skin. That is a general. But there are some Tutsi people who are darker skin and who are short. So those are some exceptions. I don't know if that happened during when people, when people became a Tutsi because they were rich or something. But some people you cannot distinguish if they are Tutsi or not. But a lot of majority, even will be hey, this guy he's a toy. Some people you can tell exactly, no, this is a Tutsi, for example, the president, and that is like I would say 80% of Tutsi, they are recognizable physically, 20% not. So you would have to kind of know the story.
I guess I would have to see. It's like going to Kenya again. It's like this sounds so racist, and I don't mean it to be Ange. Black people look alike, right? But going to Kenya, I can tell the difference between a Somalian and a Kenyan just by looking at them. Is it like a distinction like that?
Yes, exactly like that. Yeah, because a lot of time those people like Nilotics, people from Ethiopia, Somalia, and the people from Ghana or Cameroon. I mean, those people are completely different. I mean, physically.
And I can say that too because I had a Kenyan tell me one time that all white people look alike. So
I was going to say the same, but they're going to look different or they speak different.
Yeah.
Especially for someone who does not speak a lot of English, they're not going to know if there is a accent different between someone from New York, someone from Alabama. Someone who does not speak or who doesn't understand English very well, I'm not going to know. But the more, like for now, even though I don't speak good English, but I can distinguish someone from the southern states.
Yes,
definitely,
which is impressive because tell how many languages do you know, Ange?
The one that I can speak correctly, I would say 3. Yes.
Oh, I thought you had like 6 or 7.
I said that I can speak correctly.
No, you mean fluently?
Yeah, fluently.
How many languages do you know?
5.
5. Okay.
Yes. I'm starting to forget some because I don't speak them anymore.
Yes. So that's interesting. So when the plane was shot down, they were able to notify Hutus of who to kill.
Yes.
Right? They had lists made up. Is that correct?
Yes, that is what I heard. Some people had made a list of who is going to be, especially the more renowned people, like rich people, like a rich Tutsi, because they knew that they were Tutsi because they were helping the army that was forming outside of the country. Some of them were open. Some of them but some people just said, yes, I'm Tutsi or I'm sporting or I don't like the government. So they knew them that if something happened, they should be the ones being killed. So they were already on the list, those kind of things.
And a lot of the things that I noticed that were happening are the sole reason I wanted to talk is because I see a lot of similarities in what happened there and the types of things that happened here. It's like we've already talked about that. I mean, how many different ways can they separate us? Are you white? Are you black? Are you Asian? Are you, whenever you fill out a census, they want to know how old you are. Now it's like, or do you identify as a woman? Do you identify as a man? It's like all these separations. So they had the list made up, and they had already separated everyone and caused a tension. When and I'm leading you because I'm just curious. Who had control of the airway of the radio stations?
It was the Hutu party.
The Hutu party.
Yes.
And that played a very pivotal role, correct?
Yes, because so that was a wartime. I would say it was a wartime. So each party is going to do whatever is best to win, or to stay on the power, or to keep the power. So the Hutu, they started using their own ways, using the radio or whatever possible way they had to be able to tell, to push people to do whatever they want them to do. So the radio was one of the way
that they were able to tell people to start killing.
To start killing those, because they said if you don't kill them, they're going to come to kill you. Because people knew that the RPF was coming. People knew that it was coming, and they knew that when the RPF comes, because those were really scary people, because they have done some bad stuff 4 years. During the previous 4 years. So then if they come here, they're going to be they're going to do bad things. And actually, they knew some of the people living in the country during that time, they were probably, quote, spies. So that was one of the reasons why some of them people were being killed, because, okay, you are a spy of those people. Those people are coming, and yes.
So would you say this was done as a more preemptive attack as opposed to like a? I mean, I know there's that ethic, maybe hatred or bitterness towards people, but was it more this preemptive attack, or was it, man, we truly just despise these people, want to kill them? You know, one versus we're trying to protect ourselves from something they might do to us, versus, you know, maybe more Nazis the way they treated the Jews. Does that make sense?
It was both, because and in any party or move or groups, you're always going to have those different people. It's just like here in the political party, there are some extremists, who are willing to do anything because they're trying to protect. So there were those kind of people too, and there were some people who were peaceful, who wanted everybody to live together. There were some people. So basically, but those extremists, even if there are 2 or 3 or 4, they could cause damage, especially if they, explaining why you have to do, or if they're trying to. And when you are scared, a lot of time you are going to listen to the person who looks like you. And if they're telling you, okay, maybe what they're saying is true, maybe I should kill this person, because when they come back, they're probably going to take my house. And that is what happened, after when they came, they took the houses, and so, some of the whatever they were telling them became the truth. People were being killed when they were coming, the RPF, that is something that people are...
Were the RPF, so you're trying to get out of Kigali, you're trying to get out of Rwanda, and the RPF are the ones that are coming?
Yes, so basically the RPF was standbying in Uganda, mm-hmm. And when they heard that the Tutsi were being killed, then they were like, okay, let's go save our people.
So that's what most of the people that did stay behind, that's what they were waiting for.
That was a say that they were waiting for. But the problem is, because the RPF said we stopped the genocide. But some people say you're the one who started the genocide. And the people would say, because the genocide was the only way to help them to get in the country. Because if there was no genocide, then they were not going to come to save anybody.
Okay. So it's almost like some people say that they wanted that.
Yes, actually they wanted that, and they made sure it happened, because that was the only way for them to come and conquer the power without having to mix or to get along with the country. And that is why the genocide is a kind of a tricky issue, because some people did the investigation, and the people who were doing the genocide, some of them are the people who came out of the country, because this comes back to the physical look.
Yes.
Because I remember I said maybe 80% of the Tutsi you're gonna know they are Tutsi, but those are 20%, probably because they're mixed, they're gonna look like a regular Hutu. So those people who did not look like a Tutsi, they came during or before the genocide. They mixed with those who were doing the genocide.
They instigated it.
They instigated, they pushed, they even killed. They did a lot of damage.
So at the time, you think that they are...
Yeah, you think that your brothers trying to so that played a really big role. And all those truths started to come out very recently. People start talking. No, those during the genocide, some people, and a lot of time people didn't even know them.
Okay.
Because it's probably someone that comes in here, like, hey, we got to kill all these neighbors because they're doing this one.
We call that a false flag. Have you ever heard that term?
No.
You haven't? So a false flag is, I'm just going to use this as an example. I don't know if it actually happened. So like January 6th, when they stormed the Capitol and went inside, there are people that say that there were over 400, I think 300 or 400 FBI agents that instigated that they were trying to get that to happen, and for the reason of blaming it on a political party. Mm-hmm. That's kind of
exactly that
same thing. So that we call that a false flag.
Well,
and the United States has been doing that for a long time.
So the thing is, now that you're talking about United States, mm-hmm. a lot of people, some people from my country, some people from other countries, they do not like a political party here in the U.S. because that political party played a very important role in what happened in Africa, in Rwanda.